So today we're going to tackle one of the most common questions that many Christian entrepreneurs take. It's knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no, and knowing how to discern whether God is leading you in that direction or not. And this is one of the things that, as if you're a CEO and you saw our previous episode and you're on the journey to find yourself, find your voice, find your story in being an author or a speaker, this is one of the questions you need to know. I'm gonna go deep behind the curtain with Nick on how he has been able to discern those questions, find wisdom behind saying yes and no to specific things. But again, if you haven't yet, watch the previous episode after this one as well. We go a little bit more tactful in regards to how to find your voice, how to find your story, and then Nick takes us on that journey on what it looks like to be coached with him. And then secondly, if you are a CEO, we have two things. We have the virtual event coming up December 1st and 2nd, where you can find your voice and your story and have a 2-day training with Nick, and then also a Q&A session. And then secondly, coming up in February 28th, we have a very special event just for you. And it is KPI, Kingdom Purpose Impact. And to find out more about that and to even just already RSVP and secure your spot, the links to those things are in the bio, and we hope to see you there. But going back to it, today we're going to be talking about, Nick, about knowing when to say yes and when to say no. So let's say this is how I want to start it. Let's say somebody saw last week's message and somehow they're already finding success, and maybe they're already on the journey of finding let's say speaking engagements, or they already have a book, or when they get there and they have a book and they have invitations. I think a question that's going to come up is, how do I know when to say yes, when to say no, right? Because I think if we're honest, like if I were to get a speaking engagement, I'd be very excited because I'm not getting 1,000 a week like you are. And for me, it's like somebody noticed, and so now it's a yes, it's going to be easy for me to say yes rather than to like weigh it and still be like, is this God? Is this good? Is this right? Is this wisdom right now? So the specific question I have is like, so you've had a lot of major decisions, right? Like when it comes to like investments and partnerships and speaking and book deals, like what are the questions you ask yourself or you run through to yourself, your wife, your team to know this is God and this is good?
Well, I mean, to cover all four of those verticals is impossible with one answer. But first and foremost, in speaking, you got to be true to yourself, and knowing that the fundamentals, the concept of me going there, why I know my why, and I now know my what, and now the question is where and with whom, and how often.
So you know the why,
you know the what. You know the why. The what. You know your what. And then you got to figure out where, when, and how often. And with whom. It's like, it's so interesting where at the beginning of any venture, you're just going to take every opportunity you can, because you're going to build up your brand, even if you're expensing an effort where, okay, I'm not getting paid, but it's going to be a great experience. It's going to be a networking opportunity. It's where I can get some B-roll of me speaking. Yeah. It's getting the brand out there. And so at the very beginning, obviously I was single, no responsibilities as far as a wife and kids, and it was just, let's go. And so that's how the speaking career began. I would just basically say yes to everything and everyone, anywhere, just about any time. And so that's how I clocked 3 million miles of me traveling all around the world. And that's why at that time, social media was quite early back then. And we got a boatload of followers, over 10 million people, back then. And so it was because there were things that were going viral on YouTube. Right. So back then it's like, okay, what do you do? Well, to reach the world, you do a DVD, and then someone ripped the DVD, put it on YouTube, it got 70 million views. And then that's how it then brought in a lot of invitations, which then I said yes to, which then it snowballed basically. Yeah. And so a lot of hard work, But back then there were many less filters, right? I only have to think about me. So time management, that was not an issue. I had no responsibilities. The parameters of what I'm going to be sharing, well, that was in the pitch deck. They know what they want me to share. There were some stages where I couldn't really talk about my faith. I could talk about it in a personal setting or a personal way, in a way that doesn't, rock the boat. Working with governments and education systems and then corporations. It's been an incredible ride. But really, I think back then it was like, I just know that once I've got the year planned out, I'm just going to take my breath and go swim through the year and then get up on the other side and then look back and say, okay, what do I do differently?
Yeah.
Now with a wife and kids and multiple things actually also responsible on my plate for me to be responsible for, you can't, and neither do I want to just say yes just because. And so there's different parameters of measurement of what is worthwhile.
Hi everyone, it's Nick Vujicic. If we've met recently at an event or you've heard me speak in the area, I want to personally give you an invitation to join me on the 28th of February in Plano, Texas for the KPI Summit. Kingdom, Purpose, Impact. It's a powerful night designed for Christian business professionals, entrepreneurs and leaders, CEOs, or whoever wants to grow and connect to make a difference for the kingdom of God. We'll start with a cocktail and networking hour, enjoy a 3-course dinner, and then dive into an unforgettable program with myself and 3 expert leaders in business and kingdom impact. If you want to take your leadership and purpose to the next level, this is the room for you to be in. Seats will go fast. Grab your ticket and join me in Plano for the KPI Summit 2026.
You've got different conversations that a coach can help you. Okay, what's supply versus demand? And I had so many people from the outside say, well, Nick, you need to charge double. I'm like, yeah, I can try and charge double, but I don't know who's going to pay me double. Nick, you need to write a book. I'm not going to say who it was, but someone said, Nick, you need to write a book every single year. I'm like, I don't want to just write a book for the sake of writing a book. I want a qualitative measure of what's new in this book. I don't want to be another author out there that just publishes a new book every year that's just repackaging the same thing. It's that line of time management, prioritization, ROI, and what's the payoff if it is a sacrifice up front, short-term, mid-term to the long-term. Understanding that there's ebbs and flows, understanding that there are seasons in whatever you're doing. It's the same thing with business. You've got your short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. You've got your time management, prioritization. But it is though different when you're your own person in this is me becoming, if you will, a brand outside of an entity. You become an influencer, which is just a different approach and filtering system of your decision-making process.
Yeah, because so now that you mentioned it, like if I recall, you were before kind of in your kids, like you were on the road over 200 days.
Yeah, no, I averaged 275 a year for 4 years straight. 1 year I was only home 35 days of the year.
Wow.
And it was incredible. I mean, we had, we went to 87 countries total and speaking 3,500 times. And a lot of it was just for the ministry, preaching the gospel. And I loved it. Like there are people that need to hear Jesus and the hope and all that. And incredible doors to open up in countries that, they know I'm a Christian. I'm not there to preach, but I go to Russia several times, China 46 times. In the Middle Eastern countries, it's really interesting where there were some Islamic doors that opened up, and I can actually speak more about my faith as a Christian bluntly because they're religious. But in America, corporation, vertical, that's a swear word. You can't talk about faith. You can't mention prayer. You can't mention heaven. You can't mention Jesus. You can't mention anything. Where I could do that in some other countries. It's just beautiful, So it's very interesting how the dynamics are where there will be times where, especially in the ministry, I've learned that that I've needed to hear from the Lord that I need to go a certain way, to do a certain thing, even when it seems to some other people like, well, how can you just do that without a team of protection and filtering through? And here's the checklist. Are you sure you're supposed to meet that president? Mm-hmm. I think you should ask us if you need to meet the president. I'm like, I don't, look, when I hear the Lord, I hear the Lord. When I know I got to do what I got to do and go meet who I got to meet, it's hard to express some of those nuances and complex things. But when it comes to you being a speaker and true to your calling and you leading your team well, it's wonderful to get, wisdom and counsel from the people who've actually been in that sphere before. And you'll be surprised how many stories you feel like, oh, I don't think anyone's, really had this decision before. That's the beautiful thing about having community where, your stories are more common, your decisions are more common than you think. We just got to find those mentors who've gone before us, and you can ask those questions. Hey, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever had this experience? And just jotting that down, like trying to learn from other people is so incredible when you have a community that's encouraging you along the way.
Which is what we spoke about in the previous episode, right? Like being coached by you specifically for CEOs and ministry leaders who are wanting to be thought leaders and authors and speakers, and not just having your perspective on it and your experience in it, but just having the round table as well where people can speak into that. So,
and can I just say, on that foundational level, it's not about you hearing from a man or people hearing from another man or a woman. It's you being an empty vessel of the Lord to say, here I am, use me to help me be the best CEO I can be, to honor you and be the best steward of the team that I have, be the best steward of the opportunities I've been given and the story that you've allowed me to have to share it. So it's more of a stewardship, faithfulness, and not trying to prop yourself up to say, oh, look at me. And that's kind of also when you flip that coin, many people never write a book, never become a CEO, and never become an author, a speaker, because we play our own sabotage game in our brain.
Right.
Why are you really wanting to do this? And I had the same kind of questions like, is it because of pride that I want to have attention? No, I knew my heart. I didn't have to second guess that. God knew my heart. He knows my heart. He's the only one I need to prove anything to, which is just my faithfulness and my love to him and wanting to serve him in any way, shape, or form. And so because I've had the privilege of that, seeing it both sides and thinking everything that we've all thought through, it's also encouraging to know, I don't have to not try just in case down the track I get tempted with something. No, that's a mind game that will cripple you more than having no limbs.
Right. So, I mean, I'm thinking you're right about the fact that, because I gave you investments, partnerships, speaking, and writing a book, and you said that there's so much just underlying in regards to all those categories. So let's be intentional about this, because we spoke about authors and speakers in the previous episode. So that is some of the parameters that you've laid out for speakers. What are the differences in being an author, like in writing a book, like in saying yes or no to a book deal, or someone saying, hey, you know what, I'm at the point where I think I'm going to publish this and market this. Like,
look, you know what, being an author or publishing a book these days is very different than when I first came on that plateau, on that scene, if you will. And I just recommend being true to yourself. There's a lot of publishing deals out there that won't give you much money, but they'll help you print the books. They'll ship you the books. Back in the olden days, you could get some advance, but then the publishers would also say, oh, we're going to market you too. And mostly they don't really market you. Back then, though, there were things called bookstores. They don't really exist
Which
anymore.
I still go to. I love them.
I miss one. Like, where is one? I'd like to go to one. So the idea of of writing a book and being, true to yourself, as that's a contractual thing, that, you do need some wisdom and counsel of people who do know that spoken language in written format and legalese, if you will. But when it comes to leading your own team in your company, and being an entrepreneur, you got to figure out what's a non-negotiable. And when you're having a joint venture, let's say, and a partner, we've gone through so many steps and layers. I mean, you've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
How many people first waste your time? How many people use the Christianese? How many people say they want to help, or they have something, or they're doing something when actually it's just an idea or a concept, and I know this and I know that. And that's why I have, then for me, what can my team do that I don't have to do? Because time is everything. So delegating filtration of that, and then in that filtration, what's important to them? There's nothing wrong with having people driven for success and money, but to also understand that's not where their value is, and there's always going to be impact in what Nick does. I haven't done anything just to make money. There's always an impact hook or DNA within that startup, whether it's video translation to translate hope in different languages, doing books to bring hope. Me being canceled from a bank, while in reaction, we now want to have a banking solution that's digital that won't target conservative Christians and cancel you. I never thought, woke up one day, I want to go into the banking industry. I want to, no. It's always been, my journey is very unique. All our journeys are unique, and that's why I feel sorry for the people who feel sorry for me, thinking that I'm just stubborn, that I'm doing too many different things. I just feel like God's given me that many things, and I've got another 10 years of a plan, and people know that I, straddle multiple things at the same time. And if everything's going okay, then everything's okay. When everything's going bad, it's bad, but we'll get through this too. I see 10 years in advance, and I want to accomplish what I believe God's called me to be, without being that silly, stubborn, lone star dude, cowboy, who's, just doing whatever he thinks. No, you're part of my team. The filtration of that. And okay, Nick, that's wonderful, but here's the first step. Here's the second step. And this is why I don't think they're the right partner. So I think second thing is not just be true to yourself, but having that team to help delegate processes, filtering systems, decision-making processes, and hearing each other out. I think as a bullish visionary, I want to value your opinion, but sometimes I've learned to slow down my thought, to breathe, to count the buttons on my shirt, as Uncle Barta would say, and just listen and hear different people's perspective, because so many times I've had regrets where I've been quick. Nick's too quick to make some decisions sometimes, and I'm learning that. I'm wired that way. But to make decisions as a team is something that I just cannot value more these days than anything than words can express. It's beautiful to take lockstep decisions together and prioritize and time manage, and not to say to a visionary, well, you can't do that right now. Well, wait a second, why not? Like, have that discussion. Well, if this, and this, and this lined up, then you possibly can do it that way. So having that conversation and transparency of that. And, when you're a CEO, the story is different between a CEO and, let's say, the level right underneath you where they're reporting to you compared to their level where other people are reporting to them. And there's weeds down there that I don't understand. And so then all of a sudden I need to trust that person that I've delegated the delegation to. And so it's a process. I mean, you could write 12 books about just Christian business leadership and being true to yourself and having the team that helps honor what is most important to you, but presenting to you all the approaches and the angles of everything as we continue to faithfully steward what we've been given.
It's great. So, I mean, everything you just said is like a segue, whether you did it on purpose or not. We're going to find out right now, because it's a segue to you started getting us insight also into what it looks like to say yes or no in the business section, the business sector of life. Like for those that are in the business, in the marketplace, CEOs, or even ministry leaders. And I've seen that in what you're saying. In some episodes ago, we spoke about it, and you mentioned that, like, if there's one thing I know about you, is that you don't have a scarcity of ideas. Like, there's not a scarcity of business ideas, and things that can just, things that are, I think most of them I've seen like, oh, that sounds really profitable. I think 2 episodes or 3 episodes ago, you said something here, and you're like, that's a business. But one thing I've seen is that you don't just because you have an idea, you don't all of a sudden just run with it. You wait for the right person to come around you and be like, now we can go there. Now we can go in this direction. So I appreciate, hearing it and seeing it, because I'm part of that in to some degree in one of the ventures that you have. And I can see that. But, so in light of that now, and taking it a little bit, a segue into teams and business, and again, on the subject of knowing how to say yes, or when to say yes, or when to say no, or is this good in God, and so on. It's like it's been 5 years now that you've moved not just your family, but your team from California to Texas. So tell us about that thought process, because that's not an easy decision. And, I'm sure we have some business leaders listening to us, and they have big decisions in front of them as well. But I would say this is really right up there. Like, we're going to move everyone over there, and I know this is good in God. And I mean, I know from here I can see the fruits in that. But I'm sure it wasn't easy back then, because it was not an easy season.
It wasn't an easy season, and sometimes circumstances bring up thoughts and feelings, and then bring up prayer based on my thoughts and my feelings. I'm like, is that my thought? Why am I feeling this way? God, what do you want me to do? I'm responsible for my family and the ministry team. Back then, I'd said, don't worry, I'll come back in 7 years and we'll come back to California. I just knew that I felt so uncomfortable and led to move to Texas with peace in my heart. My wife's family's out here, and I just felt, for multiple reasons, that California wasn't for me and my growing family. Mm-hmm. And in these decision-making processes, as a leader who makes these decisions, you got to understand that what works for you 10 years ago may not necessarily work now. Yeah. Now that I'm a family man, my responsibilities, my priorities, my sacrifice, my time management, all these things kind of skew in a healthy way now, understanding now more responsibility. When you look at priorities and what's always worked, we can go around the world and preach a gospel to stadiums and go on TV and reach 10 million people at once. Well, when COVID came, no speaking happened. And what does that mean? Mm-hmm. What does that mean for our ministry? And no one exactly knew how that is, going to unfold. But we had to make the best decision with what we knew then. And we can definitely see the fruit of the obedience and the step of faith and the courage where, I had co-leadership to say, you know what? Let's give everyone an opportunity. Let's move out of California. Those who don't want to move, we'll figure it out. Some people may leave. But there are some people that were feeling the same way we were feeling. We're like, we should move to Texas. And seeing how that all unfolded is nothing short of a miracle. And we felt, I can't explain it to you, except to say we felt the Lord stirring up in our hearts and our prayers, me and my wife, not only to move out of California, but I had a bad feeling about 2020. And I even had a board meeting with our ministry, and it's recorded on audio. I said, I think 2020 is going to be a very difficult year. It's going to affect everyone in the world somehow, and it has something to do with persecution, in my opinion.
Hi everyone, it's Nick Vujicic. If we've met recently at an event or you've heard me speak in the area, I want to personally give you an invitation to join me on the 28th of February in Plano, Texas for the KPI Summit. Kingdom, Purpose, Impact. It's a powerful night designed for Christian business professionals, entrepreneurs and leaders, CEOs, or whoever wants to grow and connect to make a difference for the kingdom of God. We'll start with a cocktail and networking hour, enjoy a 3-course dinner, and then dive into an unforgettable program with myself and 3 expert leaders in business and kingdom impact. If you want to take your leadership and purpose to the next level, this is the room for you to be in. Seats will go fast. Grab your ticket and join me in Plano for the KPI Summit 2026.
I brought my grandfather's Bible to that meeting, and it was illegal that he would have that Bible. And I talked about how he went to jail for the doctrine of faith that he had, and he was a pacifist, and that was a no-no back then in communism regime of former Yugoslavia. And he became a medic and helped wounded soldiers on the field who were getting shot. And anyway, I shared that whole story there, and you know, there's more often than not. I'm not someone to say I believe this is what God said, but I say this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm praying through. Take it as you wish, but as for me in my house, this is what we're doing. And you can only take it as it comes. And so, whether that's a big decision to relocate everyone, or even an operational pain point where you need to make decisions based on what you are seeing, which is either the numbers or the trajectory, or you have team members that are not hitting the key performance index and the KPIs of their roadmap. Like, this is your role. This is what, you know, we would, and there's some difficult conversations, prayers, and decisions that have to be made on that. Sometimes the budget didn't come in. Well, we can't do that anymore as a ministry. Right. Or now that AI is in, you know, this company now, that initiative is not viable anymore. And the hardest thing for me is when I'm responsible for work colleagues around me where your decisions affect them. And you take responsibility, and you don't take those responsibilities lightly. That's why you need to surround the people around you who have the same view of the why. Why are we here? Why are we doing? Why it's important to make the best decision. Why we are going to take a risk. Why we're not going to take a risk. That can only really come from camaraderie, counsel, the counsel of many, there's wisdom, and then to bring forth a nurturing of prayer, intercession, waiting to make the right decision at the right time, in the right way, with the right people. Look, if we all had a crystal ball and we could tell the future, life would be different.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the journey. That's the process of becoming the leader that you need to balance and weigh all that in. And not everyone is built to become a leader. No way.
Yeah.
And no leader is perfect. No way.
For sure. So let me ask you then now in a more personal way. And in light of 2020, because this is a question that I might have had, I think, at some point, but now that we're having the conversation, I'm going to ask. I'm bringing it in light of when to say yes, when to say no. You know, for let's say a CEO in making a big decision and having to bring other people in. Did you personally encounter any pushback, either from your family or team members, and how did you handle that? Because I know that change or sway maybe even your thoughts and like, oh my God, am I wrong? Am I going the right direction? Like, I mean, how did you, I don't know if you had any, and if so, how did you handle it, and how can someone handle that?
For such a big move, I didn't tell anyone for many months. I didn't tell my wife for 4 months, but I was already feeling and mourning and grieving over the loss of moving away from a beautiful home. Mm-hmm. We brought our kids home to that home. It was really a sanctuary where I could go around and chuff off around the world and come back and recuperate and refresh and bond with my family. It was a special place for us. It was home. To uproot is painful.
Yeah.
And then that's just us. Then, yeah, the other perspective, well, the next person I needed to talk to was my wife. And she'd been feeling some weariness, a burden, displacement, uncomfortability remaining in California for various reasons. And a part of me, I was mourning for her because when COVID hit, I knew that I'm going to have to then go out and hustle again on the road and make that living again, because I just found my balance.
Yeah.
Then 2019 got canceled, and then COVID happened 2020, and speaking didn't really come till the end of 2021. Now I need to do my own event. That was my intention. I'm sick and tired of traveling around the world, sick and tired of building other people's stages and company. I'm just going to start from scratch on my own. And there was a company who came just as I was beginning that, and they're like, hey, can you help us build ours? And it was a lot less work, and it was guaranteed for me. And so in that transition, with the transition of moving, I make decisions based on that. Every season comes to an end, just about, I've realized in life. And it's funny, I'm even smiling at going now back to that moment. We're doing our own events. Mm-hmm. I'm doing coaching. That freaked me out 4 years ago. I'm not freaked out anymore. I know this is what, is something I got to do. And despite what people may think or this and that, it's something that I've realized to mature through, to weed out the people that you love, who love you, who voice concern for you, but also not be swayed differently from your conviction. And I think that's a powerful word. When you're convicted to move and you feel ready enough to tell people and get ready for their feedback. I had to be ready for their feedback. My wife had to be ready for the feedback. And the questions that if I was in their shoes, I'd be asking the same thing.
Right, yeah.
And so that's where the leadership then comes in, where we then talk to leadership. And then we talk to everyone else as a one unit. And so it's honoring, it's humility, it's not pretending that you know what you don't know. It's not pretending that you know the answers to all their questions either.
Right.
But you know what you know. Yeah. And that actually in that essence, as uncomfortable as those voyage beginnings are as a team, that's actually what makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Because you guys make as a team that decision together.
Right. And you own it together.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine that, being as a husband, as a father, how much peace you might have felt when you knew that your wife was feeling similar things. She might not have had Texas in her mind, or maybe she did because her family's here.
She did because of family, and that was weighing on her.
But I'm assuming you found some peace in like a huge sense of relief. You're like, okay, my wife and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
And then I can imagine that's huge.
Yeah. So and she was shocked when I first mentioned it.
Because she already had the thoughts in her?
She already had the thoughts in her mind.
Okay.
But she's shocked that it came out of my mouth, because every time I got on a plane back from Texas to California, she'd never bring it up. But I'd say, honey, I'm never moving to Texas. And so the fact that it came out of my mouth out of the blue, she nearly died of shock.
That's what I say to you right now.
I'm working on Gus.
My wife's not saying that, so
that's okay.
But I mean, I'll say this because it's just.
I'm happy you're in Atlanta. I'm happy you guys are happy. By the way,
I'm glad. I know you are. I've never felt different, but I mean, other than I've never felt more than that. But let me say this. Just considering my journey and what you're saying about yours, like there's moments where like when I stepped away from being a caregiver, the I don't know which of the times, the second or the third time, it was because we were going to move California to go to Kona and be trained as missionaries. And little did I know, behind that all 2 years later, I'm finding out that all that really happened because I thought I had a great idea to be missionaries and the Lord's leading me. And despite the opposition I've encountered with some leadership, I just knew, like you said, the nuances and the depths of knowing it's the Lord leading you and you can't really explain how. And I felt like, man, I'm hearing God's voice. This is great. This is good. And 2 years later, I find out, oh, it actually happened because my wife was praying. And I'm hearing it in your story. It's like you have a praying wife, and I know that, and I've seen that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, this is a parenthesis to that. One day we'll have your wife on here, but it's a parenthesis to that is the how crucial it is in life to have, if you're married, having a spouse that's praying with you and for you,
and a praying team.
Definitely.
Our team is all prayed up. Like we, not only do we do a devotional once a week, and we did that today, we're recording on a Tuesday today. It's understanding the fact that we can't do it on our own. We need God.
Yeah. So in light of that, then, James 1:5 says that for those of us that lack wisdom, we should ask for wisdom and God will give it to us. Like now, in light of that passage and what we're talking about, like what does it look like, taking it a step deeper now? What does it look like now internally, your inner dialogue with the Lord, asking for wisdom and quieting the noise, quieting both the opposition, people who might be pushing back, and that's not a bad sign, and also people saying yes is not always a good sign at the same time, because some people could be yes men or yes women and be like, yeah, everything Nick says is a great idea. There's the definitive decision that comes from your conversation with the Lord yourself in making decisions, whether it's a book deal, whether it's a speaking engagement, whether it's moving across or halfway through the country, right? Like what does that conversation look like? What do you do? What are you asking? And what are you waiting on as you're seeking wisdom from the Lord in those moments?
It depends on what that is. But for instance, when we decided this last joint venture agreement that had to do with some personal assets in real estate, I brought my wife in on that conversation, like in full. And the older I get, the more I realize it's very important to get your wife in on such decisions. Like she trusts me and my lead and the decisions that I've made up until this point when it comes to finances and locating, and she'll follow me wherever I go. I know that as far as a husband and her soulmate, but it's so much more beautiful when you can have as well that ability to, as much as possible, become one, and bring her in on such pivotal decisions. As well as, venting to her, like letting her know how to pray and the situations that we're in. My life is full of circuses and earthquakes and fires and asteroids all at once sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, well, I'm only going to tell her like 15% of really what's going on. Yeah. Because I don't want to overwhelm her and I don't know what I don't know. So even in that wisdom of how much do you share, while I know the Lord knows it all. So in praying, like actually today I'm fasting without food, okay? I fasted yesterday without food. I'm fasting today without food. I'll fast tomorrow without food. Why do I even talk about that? It's because I am yearning for only God's covering, only His leading, and I'm leaning for breakthrough in circumstances that are seeming impossible right now. That I need miracles through and in, and I know the power of fasting and praying personally. I mean, before I got married, I used to fast about 60, 65 days a year without food. Not all obviously in a row, but 3 days, 7 days, 3 days, 7 days. And I'd do that. I would roll over those alternating months and continue on that as we go and do what we do. People don't understand when you're not a Christian, you don't believe really in demons and spiritual warfare. But when you are a Christian and you are doing some stuff in the name of Jesus, like there's opposition that comes that's beyond the natural. And so how much do you share to your spouse? When? What decisions? Sure. What venting do you share with your wife? Let me tell you, I wish I actually shared with her more. Because she's right. If not 99.9% of the time, 100. I've not been that correct at all. And that's why I have wisdom of team and we make a team decision. But some people just have a gift of discernment that's just so sharp. And some people, we need to lean on more because of wisdom, because of experience, because that's where they are on the team. Some people just have a sharpness of discernment and spirit that, I should have listened. I should have talked to you earlier. You're right. And unfortunately, our emotions get in the way of our discernment. The big decisions that are not made is maybe because of fear. The decisions that are made is because sometimes of desperation. The decisions that we're made is because, or not made, is because we care too much for those people that would be affected with that decision. And so the emotions, the thought processes, again, it depends what it is. I just encourage people to talk it out and not just talk it out with people that are yes people, because then you'll just do whatever you're doing anyway. And I know those leaders, they don't even surround themselves with anybody except for people that already said, whatever you want, let's go. Whatever you want, let's go. What's the point of having those people there? It doesn't make sense. They just want to come along for a ride and they want to feel like they're part of something bigger. They want to be a leader. They want to be in someone's shadow. And so that discernment and that wisdom, it's only given by God. And I like to journal and reflect and also just talk to people that's outside of my world and say, hey, what do you think? Because again, it's much better to have a trusted person that my wife trusts, I trust. Say, hey, what do you think about that? And for the ministry, we've made some difficult decisions and we need that blessing. We need votes for the big decisions. And that's why we have a board of directors as well. So whether it's in ministry or in operations or entrepreneurship, it's just better not to do it alone.
Right. That's good. So, I mean, to add to that, there's the simple thought of like what you're saying is it's riskier and scarier to be indecisive and not make a decision, being paralyzed by fear, than to make the wrong decision and then just finding a way to pivot later, right? Like just actually taking the risk and saying, I think this is the right decision right now.
And I think it really has to do with your personality as well. Like honestly, like, that whole personality test and what kind of personality you are. You got entrepreneurs that are, like very organized and they don't really take that risk and they just build up Lego blocks. I'm on the other side. I was like, let's figure that out later. Let's forget about Legos. Let's just go for it. And the older I get, I'm like, man, I wish I was more of that one because I take so much risk. I'm always at a posture of waiting on something and hoping for something and all that.
Hi, everyone. It's Nick Vujicic. If we've met recently at an event or you've heard me speak in the area, I want to personally give you an invitation to join me on the 28th of February in Plano, Texas for the KPI Summit. Kingdom, Purpose, Impact. It's a powerful night designed for Christian business professionals, entrepreneurs and leaders, CEOs, or whoever wants to grow and connect to make a difference for the kingdom of God. We'll start with a cocktail and networking hour, enjoy a 3-course dinner, and then dive into an unforgettable program with myself and 3 expert leaders in business and kingdom impact. If you want to take your leadership and purpose to the next level, this is the room for you to be in. Seats will go fast. Grab your ticket and join me in Plano for the KPI Summit 2026.
And so that's the beautiful thing about the team.
Yeah, yeah.
You balance each other's out based on your personality as well. Why would you have a COO underneath you if you're a driven visionary that wants to make a planet in the air today, whatever, they're like, yeah, let's do it.
One of your other ideas.
Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Okay, yeah. This is the beautiful. So me and my wife, we balance each other out. Me and my COOs, we balance each other out. You and me, we're different personalities in some ways. And so that's the balance of why it's better to do it with other people because it's also our personality.
Right. And then, and
thought processes and approaches and opinions and perspectives, which are all valuable.
And bringing each other along for the journey. And again, you're talking about the idea behind it is deciding together and we own it together. And it's like we waited on this together and it wasn't just because you're Nick and I'm going to say yes just because of that and so on. So as we wrap it up and we're coming down, so let's help us then. If it's not too hard, I know that because I gave you various topics or industries based like investments and partnerships and books and speaking deals. What would be a good 3 place to start? Like let's start by checking these 3 things as we decide whether this is a yes or this is a no. Like just so we can make it very pragmatic and very like, all right, just helping people that are watching and listening right now, just to at least have a starting point. What are 2 or 3 things that they can already start looking for and deciding, making these decisions for themselves?
I think what we got to do is pause and figure out, what can I do today? What do I know now? And what can I know and learn what I don't know in this? What's the risk factor? What's the plus or the minus? What's the opportunity cost if I don't do it? There's a whole analysis as an entrepreneur that you cause yourself to go down that staircase, if you will, just go and see and scout it out. When you're a startup entrepreneur, you learn how to ask the right questions. And you never know the answers to the questions, but if you can be a ninja at asking the right questions, then you figure out at what point do I know enough to then ask the right questions to then find the expert I need to do this.
Right.
Because I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have a team. The seasons of my life where there's change, where I don't want to put up my own money up for any other entrepreneurial startups. I'd like to not start another company. I have enough, for the next 10 years, but I know that in 5 years I'll start another one. But, like riding out those waves and making sure though that I think it's as I'm getting older and seeing my kids needing me more, less is more. And so what is it that we can get smarter in? What is it that we can leverage AI in? What is it that we can partner in? And the last 4 years, it's always been, well, I don't want to start that up from ground zero. I want to find a partner. And I've had both experiences, Gus. We find the partner, but it's not successful. Mm-hmm. It was the right partner. It didn't work out. Okay. I started ground zero. It didn't work out. And there's always different things where we go back to the drawing board and say, okay, but now this is how we're going to do it different. Or, but now I know how to frame this for investors moving forward. Mm-hmm. So I know the risk I'm taking. I know the journey my team's taken on, and I know how much skin of my own skin I'm in, but I know that this can be successful. I just don't always have the same capital that I used to have to plant seeds along the way that people like, oh, I've been wanting to get on board, as an investor. They're not an entrepreneur, they're an investor. So it's not just joint ventures, it's operations, startups, and investors. And I'm new to that now. And it's beautiful when it works. And when it doesn't work, it's difficult. But you learn how to pivot and still get through it and make the most of it and still see God's blessing. If he convicted you to do it, doesn't mean you're always successful either. There'll be always times where, well, God, I thought you told me to do this. Was it a timing factor?
Right.
What variable was that not? What we could have done better that we didn't. And you're never always going to get it right, but you see the success of other entrepreneurs where they find their lane, they find their rhythm, they stop their own variables of change and just start building those building blocks together as a team with an extraordinary vision for the long term.
So what I'm hearing you say then is like, it's, in the moments that I've seen it, at least personally, is that when it doesn't seem to work out at the front end or at first, it doesn't mean that the dream is dead. It doesn't mean that the vision is gone. It just means actually there's a little bit more waiting needing to be had and to be happening.
Or you just haven't found that partner yet,
right?
Which we now found,
right. And so you're saying, and this is how we'll close it, is you're saying to pause, learn to ask the right questions, waiting, and that's probably one of the harder ones and longer ones.
Very hard.
And weighing the options, weighing the things in front of you, weighing the conversations you need to have and the decisions you should be making and not making. Yeah. So great. That's awesome. Thank you for taking us through that.
No problem. And you're the only one that knows peace. And time will tell what was you thinking that was peace and what was not. And as my grandfather always said on my dad's side, he said, no risk here, no profit here. And so looking back, I'm a high risk taker. I'm a driven entrepreneur. I have many regrets, many things I would have done differently. Now knowing what I now know, sure, absolutely. But you can't tell the future. Now knowing what I now know, knowing my balance, my lane, my borders, and my bandwidth, and having the team now that we honor the parameters we've set around this wild horse of a visionary, we run together. And that's the greatest thing, when we have scalable, sustainable rhythm. Those are the people that go the long distance. It's scalable, sustainable, and in rhythm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you for taking us on the back end again and bringing us into this.
Yeah.
If you are a CEO or ministry leader in the marketplace and you are looking to be surrounded by other like-minded and in many cases, even more successful people who can actually speak into your journey, February 28th, Nick and his team, we're hosting KPI, Kingdom Purpose Impact. And it's specifically for you, if that's who you are. And we have the link in the bio for you to bring yourself, bring your team, bring whoever it is that you need to come, who are going to help you make or move the needle in your business or in the ministry or journey that you're on. And on top of that, if you are also looking to find your voice in your story as an author and a speaker, December 1st and 2nd, we have a 2-day virtual training with Nick. This has never been done before. Nick has not given these types of trainings. And we have the honor and the privilege to invite you to come into and join that. And that link is in the bio as well. And so we hope to see you on both of those, but if not one of those. But regardless, again, if you're here, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming episodes, and share this episode with someone who you know needs to know and get their heart aligned with how to say yes, how to say no, when to say yes and when to say no, and who to bring into that conversation. And again, we want to hear your journey. So comment down below, what questions are you actually asking right now? We want to know, we want to hear, we want to see it, and then just join you in your conversations, and then also bring you into ours. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and until then, stay unstoppable.
Love you.